We're gonna go through the whole gambit of lenses, but I just want to say, yeah, this is kind of inspired by the idea that, like, I don't know, the internet and the Will Smith of it all, and just, you know, what comes off as fake, what comes off as artificial, and this, you know, the sort of the difference between, you know, real versus like overproduced or underproduced, that kind of thing. So like on one spectrum, you have like YouTube vlogs where people are literally like holding their phone at arm's length, and you know that that's as real as it's going to get. TikTok of it all. And on the other spectrum, you have like Will Smith's apology, where he basically made a set in his house and made a TV production. Be good. You know, baseline, my face looks terrifying. My hair looks weird, and also my giant nose looks infinite. So there's that. So let's see if we can find something that's a little bit more regular, as they say. So here we go. Okay, so here's like a 18, 19 millimeter. Let's do a little bit of this. We move the camera back a little bit. So it's still extremely wide, but you can see more is going on. But it's still extremely wide, so let's keep going further back, because this still seems like kind of like Emma Stone in that Birdman movie, where you're just like up her nose hairs. So let's find something else. Okay, so here's like a 24-ish. So this is kind of what you consider like a traditional wide angle lens. It's very wide. You still see a lot of stuff, but it's not crazy like the sort of the fisheye lenses I was doing earlier. Still seems pretty intimate. It's this, I would consider this sort of like, if you wanted to be intimate and you wanted to sit across from somebody at a table at like a diner or coffee shop, this kind of makes sense. This is also kind of like what iPhones at arm's length kind of do. So this kind of rings true to me as like the most intimate, because you can sort of see, this is kind of like, yeah, I'm digging this. All right, so this is kind of like a 28. So a little bit further back, but it's still kind of wide angle. I would say this is kind of close to where I like to live. Can I get it in focus? I'm not even sure I can. I suck. Oh yeah, I suck. I'll do one of this. Okay, so yeah, call this a 28. Now the camera is a little bit further than arm's length. I feel like this sort of approach is sort of standard, like it's kind of the standard field of view is kind of like 35 to 60 full frame equivalent millimeters is kind of what we consider to be normal. And so this is approaching that. It still seems a little bit wide. I kind of buy this because I feel like our generation, the millennials, kind of prefer a little bit wider. So I don't hate this. My nose looks regular. I mean, it still looks gigantic, but it's my nose. Everything else looks basically the same. You can still see around me a little bit. But yeah, I don't hate this. This feels kind of not produced, if that makes sense. Continuing on. Okay, don't know if I grab focus because I'm too far away. I'm not wearing glasses, but here's a 35. So, you know, anything between like 35 and 60, I feel like is sort of normal. So if I was trying to make a camera and a lens not call attention to itself, this is kind of where I would probably put, the lens that I would choose in order to not call attention to itself. This is how people see, more or less, you know, 35 to 60. So this is a little bit wider field of view is my preference, but yeah, this feels normal. This feels like you could tell any kind of story and it wouldn't bump, as they say. So yeah, I don't know if that's 3 feet, call it 7 feet away, maybe 5 feet, call it 5 feet away. One dinosaur arm plus another 5 feet away. Yeah. Okay, so this is the nifty 50. So this is, you know, standard lens. This is, as a photographer, this is your standard, you know, this is what people see kind of lens. I'm far enough away now that I think it's really obvious that you're standing far away. And so we're getting into the sort of the how far away is the camera going to be, because in one situation with the wide angle lens, the camera's in your lap. It's the experience of like sitting in the person's lap, you know, back to Birdman, sitting in Emma Stone's lap, which I would. And then, you know, as you further go back, you end up in sort of a Michael Bay situation, sort of voyeur, watching from afar, watching from binoculars, watching from a scope kind of situation. This is sort of the middle ground. But yeah, as far as physically away, this is a person standing far enough away to have a conversation, but still be hearable. So if that makes sense. But you know, this is what people expect when they say a portrait lens. It's not my style. It's a little too tight. I like the wider angle, but you know, no big deal. So let's go telephoto. Okay, so we're definitely gonna have to move back. That's definitely gonna be a thing. Let me see if I can find a place in this room that's not. Whoop, there goes that. Okay, whoopsie. Maybe right there, and then we'll. Now we're in Michael Bay territory where everything is way far away, and you know you're sitting far away. Like the camera's far away, which means the audience sits far away, and you're sort of spying on somebody. So this is good for big sweeping Michael Bay shots or James Bond, but I have to slash down. In the context of like intimacy, this is like, you know, it's not great. You're watching the hero from afar, or you're in the back of the conference room, or you're watching a wedding from the back row, that kind of thing. So, you know, as far as intimacy goes, I think this is the worst case scenario, unless you want to see every pore in my face and shrink my nose down to a regular person sized nose instead of a giant nose, which is what I have. But I don't know. So let's go back to a more manageable focal length, I think. Okay, so we're back to like a 28 millimeter, so like wide but not crazy. Let me fix the gel. Ow, that was a sharp piece of metal. Wide angle is a thing now, and everybody understands that wide angle means more authentic than something more composed. But there's also sort of the production value, the produced of it all, where again I point back to the Will Smith apology video where it's produced. That's not his living room. Nothing about that is actually his living room, and if it is, he's produced his living room. So, you know, I think there's a usefulness in being able to reach out and touch the camera. Maybe get a little bit closer. Maybe that'll be better. That way we can touch see if we can get a focus. Did I make it? Okay. So, yeah. So basically, what I'm getting at is this idea that as an audience member, as a person who watches movies and TV, you kind of inherently know how far away the camera is. And that's your first indication of how produced or authentic the story that's being told is trying to be. If it's extremely wide, like that Leo DiCaprio movie where he gets mauled by a bear, you know you're literally up in his nostrils, you know, living the experience. Whereas if it's something like you know, a Transformers movie or a big action movie that's seen from far away, you're an observer. You're meant to be an observer, and I think that's where apology videos. Again, I'm pointing to the Will Smith of it all. Like what a miss, because all you got to do is hold your phone up or make a big wide angle and not make the room look like it was designed by a production designer and you know, speak your truth. Whereas there's something weirdly intimate about having the camera all up in your business, and nobody likes it. It's really uncomfortable. It's really awkward. It's also, I suck at grabbing focus, but it's a thing. So, you know, time and place. I think it's really useful in really specific situations, especially narrative storytelling, to get close. But in a lot of situations, it's not worth it. You're better off doing more of a standard distance, standard field of view, where the people are just living their lives and you see it the way you would see it in a regular situation. I think that's a healthier way to live. But in the spectrum, I do feel like what I'm trying to say is the closer the camera physically is to you, which means the wider the lens, it is more intimate, but it gets yucky when you get close. And the further away the camera gets, the more voyeuristic, the more of a, you become aware that you're an audience member and that you're not in the situation, which is cool at times for the big sweeping like helicopter shot. But in situations where you're trying to convey something emotional, trying to convey something that requires acting, requires people's faces to do things that you connect with on an unconscious level, maybe being far away isn't such a great idea. And maybe it's not just the face, maybe it's the shoulders, maybe it's the body language, maybe it's the fact that they have a messy room. That's what I'm getting at. I think at least in this time and place, you're erring on better off getting closer, treating it like it's an iPhone where you're holding it at arm's length and it's a wide angle lens, than you are watching from far away. And I want to hammer back to this Will Smith apology thing. I think the very one thing that you see, even if you don't see anything else about it, the thing that you notice when you see that thumbnail of him trying to apologize is it looks like a movie or a TV show or a press conference, and it shouldn't be, because it's supposed to be a person apologizing for something they did as a person and not as a creative property. That's what I'm getting at. So at the end of the day, if you want to just be a person talking to a camera or a person talking to another person, it's really nice to have the camera close enough that you're having a conversation with the person. At least for me, for the psychology of being able to reach out, and I could touch the person if I wanted to, but also if you're not, even if you're not trained in this stuff, you kind of know intuitively where the camera is sitting. And if the camera's sitting close, that means something different than when the camera is in a helicopter 200 feet away. So I don't know. Was this helpful? I'm gonna finish my dinner and have another brewski. But like, share, subscribe. Catch you next time.